Alright, this is my audience. My topic is the legalization of medicinal marijuana. There's been heavy controversy in the media about the legalization of marijuana. How many of you guys have heard or seen this debate?
I have.
Alright, the debates between opposing and supporting groups have been in effect since 1972, when U.S. Congress placed marijuana as a Schedule I drug. Pretty much what that means is that they defined it as no medical value or purposes to be used as medicine. Since then, the United States has been in a struggle whether or not to legalize marijuana due to the side effects and outcomes associated behind it. Um, the legalization of medicinal marijuana will benefit individuals with specific medical issues, increase tax revenue, and decrease the volume of court cases related to marijuana. To understand the current debate in the media, we'll explore the positive outcomes and benefits of medicinal marijuana, touch on the criticism towards the issue, and pose solutions and ways to support the fight for legalization. Opposing groups to the legalization of medicinal marijuana or ignoring the fact about it. This type of treatment for patients with specific diseases and illnesses is more beneficial than the prescribed drugs on the market today. Doctors have seen that marijuana is less toxic, more useful than other prescription drugs, and can alleviate pain and symptoms to a variety of illnesses such as cancer, AIDS patients, multiple sclerosis, glaucoma, and epilepsy. The IOM report that was released in 1999 found that the active component, which is THC, or tetrahydrocannabis, is marijuana is effective at treating pain, nausea, and vomiting. By legalizing medicinal marijuana, it would increase street sales, increase taxes, and ultimately reduce the number of criminal cases that we have in our court systems. By having cannabis dispensaries regulated by the government, it will monitor the consumption of marijuana per individual, but also eliminate the dangerous drug sellers on the streets today. Right here is a picture of a dispensary in Los Angeles. Pretty much, it looks like a basic store. People that have medical cards are the ones that can actually be allowed to go into them, and they show their cards, and they can pick from a variety of different herbs and marijuana that will suit their own pleasure. Let's see. Marijuana bought on the street can be dangerous and harmful if grown with hazardous chemicals and fertilizers. And also by having dispensaries, the government can ensure safe quality and for medical users without the harmful chemicals or pesticides that are grown in other places around the country. The sale of marijuana will drastically increase tax revenue for the state. By having a higher increase in tax revenue, the states can now afford to fix roads, buildings, bridges, and other aspects of our environment with the increased income. Right here is a chart that is estimating the total revenue of taxes with each state. As you can see for California, they're estimating $105.4 million in tax revenue. As you can see, as it goes down, it does decrease drastically with the other states. But as you can see, Pennsylvania is the eighth state, highest state for the tax revenue, with a $3.5 million. Not only would it increase tax revenue, it would also reduce the high volume of court cases relating to marijuana charges. Lynn Nosfiger, which is a former press secretary to Ronald Reagan, said that individuals that need medicinal marijuana are getting it illegally in the streets, which are causing them to get caught and ultimately get convicted of a crime. She's saying that if we do make it legalized, that this will reduce the amount of people receiving it illegally and ultimately reduce the volume of court cases, which will drastically reduce costs. The current criticism towards medicinal marijuana is flawed and close-minded thinking. Certain individuals believe that marijuana is a gateway drug and that to other dangerous substances, and well, that thought is flawed and untrue. Researcher and PhD Andrew Morrell argued that there is no correlation of marijuana being the culprit of the use of other drugs. Individuals are predisposed to use drugs are more likely to use a variety of drugs than just one. The reason why marijuana is thought to be the gateway drug is that it's the easiest to obtain on the streets, and most of the time is the first drug that people choose to do. The statement from former U.S. Senator Bill Frist discussed that there is not enough scientific data and research for medicinal marijuana, but in actuality, that's inaccurate as well. There have been numerous amounts of research and studies on marijuana which prove beneficial aspects of it. Jocelyn Elders, which is the former general surgeon, posed that sufficient evidence from research showed that the benefits and positive outcomes from consuming medicinal marijuana far exceed those in the negatives. Other criticizers discuss that marijuana is addictive and have serious withdrawal effects like nicotine, but in reality, they're not. Research from PhD Colin Blakemore says that under 10% of users experiences psychological dependence, but there is very little evidence that it carries a risk of true dependence. Unlike nicotine and other hard drugs, there is no clearly defined withdrawal syndrome associated with it. There are also a number of solutions to having medicinal marijuana legalized, and they have been portrayed in our society for some time now. As of 2010, 15 states, and including Washington, D.C., have legalized medicinal marijuana. Other states should enact and adopt similar laws like the other 15 states, which would allow the patients to seek treatment of medicinal marijuana. These laws would reduce the criminal cases in court, increase tax revenue per state, and ultimately give individuals an alternative to prescription drugs and also provide them safer um, forms of treatment as well. In order to raise awareness and get states to legalize it, we all must take action and get involved in the fight. You can sign a petition on www.thepetitionsite.com/takeaction. That website is a full petition, and you can sign it, and it gets sent to Congress after that. We do need to persuade the opposing groups to support medicinal marijuana by holding public speeches and discussing the positive benefits associated with it. We can contact our local senators and congressmen to vote on our behalf in the legislation. It's now time to move away from the general consensus and fight for what we believe in order to gain legalization for marijuana. Our world is changing every day, and society is more accepting now of the benefits that marijuana has on certain patients. Previous history has shown that fighting for what you believe in is the ultimate key to success in getting it passed by government. For example, Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech and Rosa Parks' bus incident are prime examples of fighting for what you believe in and getting something changed as a result of that. By facing and persuading the criticizers, we will gain support and votes that can ultimately change the rule of law and allow the distribution of medicinal marijuana for their prospective patients.